Hey, there are some really big changes coming to the DC tax sale laws. So I thought we should talk about that. And specifically, I want to talk to homeowners who may be delinquent on taxes or they've received a vacant status notice. I'm Vanessa Hardy with Long and Foster, and I help buyers and sellers in DC and Northern Virginia to navigate difficult and complex real estate transactions, and often vacant statuses or tax delinquencies. They can be amongst some of the most complex in DC. So definitely something to talk about. The first thing is, if you haven't heard, the DC tax lien sale that was supposed to take place on July 15th, that has been postponed, and now it's going to take place on August 19th. I did another video, and I'll link that video. I did another video talking about the reasons for the postponement, and it's really interesting. And as I said, it's going to lead to some big changes. So I'm definitely going to watch that, watch for those changes. But the main thing is, if you are someone who got a letter saying that your property was going to tax lien sale in July, you're also going to get a follow-up letter saying that that sale date has been postponed to August. The main thing, though, is you want to get in action. So if you are someone who owes delinquent taxes and your property's on that tax sale list, don't panic, but also don't delay. You want to get into action because you're still going to have penalties and interest that will still accrue even though they've postponed that sale. And the faster that you get into action, the lower your overall expenses will be to get out of all of this. I have definitely counseled some people who are dealing with this sort of an issue, and often what we'll do is we'll sit down and look at their total picture. You would be amazed. There are ways to navigate this. DC has some avenues that you may qualify for that would allow you to be on a payment arrangement, postpone a tax lien sale. They've got definitely got some programs for seniors to help seniors who are having a difficult time paying the taxes. The main thing is you want to get with a professional that you trust. You want to be in communication with the DC tax office to see if there are avenues available to you to ease the burden and hopefully get you off that tax lien sale. For some people, the best option is to sell the property, and that way you get to keep as much of your equity as possible. What I have found is the biggest problem is often what has gotten you on that tax sale list and what has led to having such a high tax bill is that the property wound up on the vacant status list, maybe the blight list. If DC decides that they believe your property is vacant or blighted, but very often it's vacant. They cite a property and say that we believe no one's living in this property, it's not in use, and they give you notice that they are moving you to vacant status. The taxes on that property, excuse me, maybe 5 to 10 times higher than usual. So what I find is that often the people who wind up with a property on the tax sale list, it's because they found themselves on this vacant status that the property tax bill just gets so high that they just can't manage to pay that tax bill. So the biggest thing I would say to people right now is, one, DC is getting very aggressive about vacant status. They're out looking for vacant properties. Neighbors can, there's a platform where neighbors can report on vacant properties. So it is not unusual that someone who would not believe that they have a property that DC would take any interest in, that DC would be checking out, you'd be surprised. So I would say, first off, you really want to stay vigilant. Make sure you're checking your mail if you've got a property that maybe a tenant just moved out of, maybe you just moved out of. If you know someone who's a senior, I see this a lot, where they leave the property temporarily for health reasons. They need to move in with someone, they need to go to an assisted living, whatever. For even a short time, you would be amazed at how fast DC can be on that, and all of a sudden, that property is on the vacant status list. So the biggest thing is don't panic and be in action, because again, there are exemptions to that vacant status, and if you can use one of those exemptions to get off of the vacant status, it is going to save you tens of thousands of dollars. And what we are talking about is the homeowner's equity. I have gone to closings with sellers, clients that I had, where my client has lost $100,000, $150,000 of their equity, all because of this vacant status. And sometimes I realize that had they come to a professional faster, we could have saved some of that money. They would be getting that money back to themselves at closing rather than paying it to DC. But you have to act quickly. You can't ignore it when you get that vacant status. And here is one thing I want people to be very aware of. You could be fighting DC about that vacant status. You may be saying, I don't owe you all these taxes, and you may have a list of reasons as to why, but DC hasn't yet agreed with you. Well, if you have a mortgage, your mortgage company, if they're paying the taxes, the mortgage company is going to pay that higher tax bill because they don't want the property to go to foreclosure with the city. So now you've got an issue, not just with DC saying you owe all this money. Now you've got a mortgage company that is looking at your escrow account and saying, you owe us $40, $50, $60, $70,000 for these taxes. It can be a nightmare. So, like I said, the main thing, if you get the notice, don't panic, get in action, contact DC about the exemptions. I'm happy to be a resource. Please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk you through your next steps. So, as I said, for some people, the best thing to do is either put a tenant in, rent the property, hire a professional real estate agent to lease or sell the property, and then there are other exemptions that you can use. As I said, main thing is just get in action. I'm Vanessa Hardy from Long and Foster, and I help people all the time to navigate these sorts of situations. So please feel free to use me as a resource.